Hello and welcome to this video about terms, specifically terms about wolf management and the climate, and how those two are kind of interacted. You'll see what I mean by the end of this video. So why do we need to know these terms? And this has been really useful for me to learn because it helps me to not misuse these terms or have misinformation or just anything around not understanding and causing unintentional harm. So I've enjoyed this so much so that I'm going to break each term into its own video and break it down further and deeper there. So for this video, it's just going to be a quick and dirty top 10. So let's get going. So number 1, wildlife management. The overall basis of wildlife management is that it is a process of influencing a species, its habitat, and people with specific goals and predetermined impacts in mind. When you are managing something, you are making it do something intentional or preventing it from doing something. It's kind of the basic. Terms 2 and 3 are very similar, so I'm going to clump them together as ecosystem and biodiversity. So I'm going to start with term 2 first, ecosystem. So ecosystem is a system formed by the ecology and its environment, which basically means that there is a relationship between species like the wolf or an organism like an aspen grove and the environment it lives in or is at, like Idaho. These plants and animals working together with their environment make up an ecosystem. Now let's talk about biodiversity. Biodiversity is all the variety of plants and animals in an ecosystem. So it's all the different plants, animals, habitat that makes up nature. Biodiversity is very important to the health of an ecosystem, meaning we need all this variety of plants and animals and organisms in their environment to help make that environment function properly. And having this biodiversity means that each individual species can do its part and cope better with problems or issues that the climate might present. Number 4, Keystone Species. And I mentioned this before in a video that I did previous, the overview video of the gray wolf, its values, issues, and threats, and then the potential solutions we have for helping manage that species better so that it's not just killed off. I'll link to that below. Please go check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. But as for Keystone Species, the basic term for Keystone Species means that it's a species that holds together the ecosystem disproportionately more than any other species in that ecosystem. Another way to say it is that the ecosystem and the biodiversity depend on this keystone species. For example, the gray wolf is a keystone species. Bees, beavers, sharks, starfish all hold together their ecosystems more than the other species in that ecosystem. Meaning that if you want things to be healthy, you need these keystone species. If you want clean water, clean air, soil, natural resources to be awesome, we need healthy ecosystems, which means biodiversity and keystone species. Which leads me to my 5th term, Tropic Cascade. Tropic cascades are powerful indirect interactions. It's a phenomenon that is triggered by either removing or reintroducing a species into an ecosystem. This causes change in that ecosystem. For example, and simplicity's sake, if you were to remove a predator or a carnivore like the gray wolf, then the plant-eating herbivores like deer or elk will cause and eat down lots of plants. That's the tropic cascade. Why does that matter? Because it can screw up ecosystems and limit biodiversity and just cause a whole slew of unintentional problems because of these interactions. Which leads me to our next term, conservation. Because we need to protect things. Conservation is maintaining a constant or preventing wasteful use or loss. So we have all these natural resources: land, plants, animals, soil, geological features, minerals to care for and preserve so that they can last and persist not only now, but also for future generations. That's conservation. Conservation in general means the sustainable use compared to prevention, which means no use. Sometimes wildlife management plans are also called wildlife conservation plans. Conservation tends to be species-oriented with its roots in hunting and other sorts of natural resource use activities, where environmentalism is a little different and they typically lose the belief around hunting or use activities. Number 7, environmentalism. Environmentalism is actions or movements aimed at improving or protecting the natural world. It is more of a whole approach compared to the specifics of conservation, and oftentimes it includes both urban stuff and parks and forest land things, so like urban beautification projects or protecting or restoring our natural parks, forest lands, things like that. And there is typically an element of human-caused issue that environmentalism seems to go after. And for environmentalism, these issues were unknown human-caused, so it's unintentional harm. Environmentalism views the whole as so important it tends towards movements or action, which leads us to our number 8 term, activism. Activism is direct action towards an issue. It's usually for or against something political. For our purpose, with protecting the wolf, activism can be either writing to the Idaho Fish and Game Commissioners or politicians, or it can be as simple as purchasing products to support grassroots movements. Now I'm going to shamelessly plug our beautiful prints for sale on our website that go directly towards supporting this grassroots movement of activism and protecting the gray wolf species in these northern Rocky states. Why is that important? Because of the health of the ecosystem. And the ecosystem needs these species to provide biodiversity so that there isn't a tropic cascade that leads to poor water quality, bad air, mega wildfires, and different forms of climate disasters or climate change. See what I did there? Can you see how the terms work? And the next term, number 9, climate. And on our list of top 10, climate is actually the last word. Top 10 just sounds better, but there's really only 9. And climate is really simple to define, but hard to know what to do with, because climate is just the average weather. It's just weather, that's it. So the average weather in a certain place. So we use terms like a wet climate or a dry climate. And here's where it gets hard to know what to do with it, especially as it pertains to all these other terms we now know. Is that the climate is changing. And I'm going to make a separate video specifically around each one of these terms, so go find that now if you want to know more. But that leads me to why the wolf is so important and drawing direct conclusions to water quality, air quality, soil, natural minerals, and the overall climate change that the gray wolf can help combat, being a keystone species, adding biodiversity as variety in those ecosystems so that Tropic Cascade events don't occur and cause problems. That's how it's connected. That's it. And the unfortunate thing is that we used to not think this about species or even humans' impact on the environment, but we can cause negative impacts. I mean, the Carolina parrot, the millions of buffaloes that used to roam around the plain, and this rhetoric has roots all the way back to our presidents. The 4th president of the United States. Was he the 4th president? Thomas Jefferson. I think he was the 4th president of the United States. Thomas Jefferson said that humans can't cause harm on an environment. We are incapable of changing the ecosystem. We're just too small. It's too vast. And as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, do better. And now we know better. And we have new science, new data, a lot more recording showing that that in fact is not true. And especially as it pertains to the gray wolf. So that's why we need to do better. We need to update the management plan to reflect that we need to do better. So please, watch the overview video to know what to do. But in general, you just have to reach out to these people and tell them that you don't like it and that the plan needs updated. The Idaho Fish and Game, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, tell President Biden he needs to instate protections. Tell Secretary Deb Haaland that the Endangered Species Act needs some work, and all the way down the list, so that we have wild places left. We have natural resources and wild places. Like, it's so important. And that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Do all the YouTube things. Subscribe, like, share. But more importantly, please go down and comment. I love comments. I read comments on YouTube videos all the time. I just think it's super fun. I love commenting. So please, in the comments, let me know what terms you liked, what terms stood out to you, or what term you maybe thought should be included on this list is important. All right, thanks. Bye.